now seeing or introducing ourselves to Declan Doyle as the offensive coordinator and Anthony Weaver finally as the Ravens defensive coordinator. Going to go through their introduction to the Ravens, kind of gloves on lounge podcast questions, but still some good information here that you got from them in these interviews. Before we get into that, though, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. And oh, by the way, my name is Sudden Death. You're listening to the Quiet Storm Sports Podcast on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Let's get into it. Yes. Welcome in, welcome back, welcome one, welcome all back to the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sudden Deaf, and you are listening to Quiet Storm Sports, a daily Baltimore Ravens show where I cover the latest and greatest from our Baltimore Ravens. If that sounds good to you and you want to stay locked in throughout this entire long, grueling, whatever other adjective you want to use to describe it, painful off season, make sure you stay locked in by hitting that subscribe button and also liking the video. That helps us out a ton here at PRP. And I would greatly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart personally, right? You guys don't even understand what that does for the channel. So please be sure to like the video. I am live right now, as I normally am. I do have the chat right here on screen. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all for coming through as always. And we got some things to get into. We got some things to get into today, right? And before I get into, the interviews that came out today with Declan Doyle and Anthony Weaver, I do want to first say that tomorrow you're going to see a little bit more gloves off interviews from the media, the open media, the Baltimore media, asking questions to Declan Doyle, Anthony Weaver, and the like. So that'll be very interesting, as you already know. Y'all already know what it is. We're going to be covering that live here on this channel. So if that sounds good to you, again, please be sure like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're part of the replay gang, which means you're not watching live on this episode, comment down below what you thought or what you think about Declan Doyle and Anthony Weaver's introduction to the Ravens. But before we get into that, though, I do want to bring up who's here in the live chat as I normally do. Again, shout out to the replay gang. Salute to y'all as well. Let me see who's in here. We got Glaucoma in here. Chris M is in the chat. Void, one of our members. Chris is also a member as well. Kwame is a member who's in the chat as well. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Swin73 says, yeah, Declan Doyle is a genius, not Ben Johnson. LOL. I don't know if you're being facetious there, but I do think that Declan Doyle is a genius. I mean, the way that he's talking, the word of the day is perspicacity. Perspicacity. Sound it out. If you don't know it, perspicacity basically means being sharp as a tack in your field, right? You ever seen that intern at the job who just knows everything about everything and they just blow the doors off of everybody else, all the competition, right? You know that they're going to be the leading CEO or they're going to make partner, whatever, what have you. That's what Declan Doyle is. He is a future head coach in this league. He means business, and I cannot wait to get to what he had to say on the Lounge podcast today. But shout out to everybody who's here in the chat, especially all of our members here of the Rain Gang. We are going to do a new giveaway. A new giveaway is coming right down the pipeline in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And of course, it's only going to be only for our members. Only for our members. But shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for coming through to this one. So before we get into the Declan Doyle stuff, I do want to bring up a couple of, quick hitters, right? Quick hitters, pieces of news that came out today from the Baltimore media. So number one, as you guys can see down below, Isaiah Likely and the Ravens, as it was reported today, have made no progress on a new deal. Isaiah Likely and the Ravens have made zero progress on a new deal, which is very, how do I say, disheartening for me. Very disheartening for your boy because your boy is a big fan of Isaiah Likely, a huge fan of Isaiah Likely. Real quick, just a quick, how do I say, fun fact about me. I like Isaiah Likely a lot because we actually share the same first name. That's right. My first name is actually Isaiah. For those of you guys who did not know, little tidbit of information, fun fact for the Rain Gang here. I know a lot of you guys didn't know that, but I'm a big fan of Isaiah Likely, not just because we share the same first name, but also because he is a hell of a playmaker on the field, right? I mean, there's been multiple times throughout his career in Baltimore where, like I always say, he has taken over games. He is shown to have the best hands on the team. I think still to this day, as it stands right now, Isaiah Likely has the best hands on the Baltimore Ravens. Is that crazy to say? Let me know if you agree or disagree down below in the comments. That's probably something that most of you guys probably have not thought about. But when you think about it, Isaiah Likely has better hands than Zay Flowers. I'd say he has better hands than Rashad Bateman. Definitely better hands than Mark Andrews. Tez Walker, he's a guy who we haven't really seen him too much. Tez has pretty good hands, but I think Isaiah Likely has better hands. He has more proven hands, right? Better hands than Tylan Wallace, even though Tylan Wallace really don't drop stuff either. He just doesn't get enough volume, much like Tez Walker, but Isaiah Likely has the best hands. The best hands, right? Let me see here what you guys say. Chef Spicy Rice says he agrees. Yeah, man. I agree. Taurus, you don't agree. Who has better hands? Taurus, please let me know. Taurus says we starting off capping already. Let me know. Please let me know who has better hands on this Ravens team than Isaiah Likely. Because I can't find him. I can't find him. I just can't. But shout out to y'all for coming through to this episode. Make sure you leave it down below in the comments what you think about that. But again, I just it's gonna pain me to see Isaiah Likely number 80 in another uniform next year because wherever he goes, he's going to make plays. Whether that means he goes to the Chiefs and he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, he's gonna be, dare I say, they're gonna make him the second coming of Travis Kelce. Say I'm tripping, big shoes if you want to. Say I'm tripping, but I don't think I am. If he goes to the Giants, right? Jackson Dart is going to use Isaiah Likely much like a security blanket. If he goes to the Commanders, Jaden Daniels will do the same. If he goes to New England, which is somewhere he's it's kind of heating up. The rumor mill is heating up on, Isaiah Likely might be going home because he's actually from Massachusetts. He might be going to New England. They have the cap space and they have the need, right? Hunter Henry is a cool tight end, but he's a little bit long in the tooth, getting up there in age. And Isaiah Likely, he is a young spring chicken and he catches everything. So I could definitely see him going to the Pats. And if he were to, he would make plays over there. But my overall point is he's going to make plays anywhere he goes. He's going to get paid anywhere he goes, right? James says here in the chat, I'm a fan of Likely, but he wants more than top 5 tight end money. He can walk. It's a business. It's a business. It's a business. So I get it. I get it. I get it. And he deserves it. Quite frankly, he deserves it. B More W, what up, B More W? Says, I love Likely, but feel like he'll be far too expensive in the open market. I agree. It's unfortunate, but I agree. I agree. Again, if you are new here to the Rain Gang, do not forget to join the Rain Gang by liking and subscribing. Every new sub equals a live emote on stream, as you guys know. Also, if you do want to leave a super chat donation, if you're really feeling strongly about something, you want to leave a super chat donation, I will bring it up immediately. And I'll also, as y'all know, throw on my cowboy hat. All super chat donations get a little cowboy hat appearance on stream. So just to let y'all know, as I've been doing these past couple of episodes. But again, appreciate y'all for coming through. I cannot tell you enough how much I'm going to miss Isaiah Likely. Unfortunate stuff. Now, Void says Likely is very replaceable. A playmaking tight end like that. Now, I do have faith in the Ravens to be able to go out and draft tight ends. We've historically proven that we can do that, right? So I do have faith that we'll get probably the next best thing at tight end. I'm not a big Charlie Kolar guy like I know a lot of you are, but I think that the Ravens can go out in the draft and they can get a new guy. They can. Now, moving on here, another quick hitter before we get into the interviews. And this is nothing important, but Derrick Henry, I think in an interview, he had hinted at what his future might look like post Ravens and post football. Apparently, Derrick Henry wants to join Hollywood and become an actor. I don't know how many of you guys knew that, but yeah, Derrick Henry wants to be in movies. He wants to be a movie star, which is a little bit shocking to me because Derrick Henry is the type of guy who, this is the same Derrick Henry who says that he doesn't dance after scoring touchdowns, even though we saw him do it that one time after that one touchdown. But he says he doesn't dance. He doesn't like to do all that. He's too old for that. So, like, buddy, if you're acting, you're gonna have to really, really step outside of your comfort zone. So I don't really know how that's gonna shake out, but apparently him and Adam Sandler, I know most of you guys know who that is, have a handshake deal on him being in one of Adam Sandler's movies, right? And they made a deal before this past season started. Adam Sandler said, "Hey Derek, if you get 2,000 rushing yards this season, you'll be in one of my movies." And they had a handshake deal. Now, of course, Derrick Henry fell short of that by about 400 yards, a little bit over that. But I think the deal is still on the table. The offer is still on the table. It's probably going to happen. Me personally, I think that Derrick Henry is stiff as a board when it comes to like acting and, just kind of being goofy and stuff like that and not being stoic as he normally is. Even when he's been on stream and stuff like that, he's just kind of stiff. But it would be hilarious. It would be hilarious watching Derrick Henry on any sort of big screen. Hilarious, right? So, um, what is Henry going to be, an action star? Exactly. Exactly. I don't know. And bro can't act. I just don't see it. I don't see it. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and transition to what we came here to talk about. I know a lot of you guys are like, Sutton, what, we don't care about Derrick Henry acting. Hell, I barely care about Isaiah Likely not coming back to Baltimore. I get you. I got you. I know what you came here for. You came here to listen to your new coaches of this Baltimore Ravens team, Anthony Weaver, defensive coordinator, and Declan Doyle, offensive coordinator. Let me go ahead and switch over here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kick this off by listening to Anthony Weaver. I got a couple of clips lined up here because the entire interview is like 20 plus minutes long. A lot of it's fluff. Like I said, the Lounge Podcast, they are employees directly of the Baltimore Ravens. So a lot of these questions are going to be gloves on, right? Big 8-ounce boxing gloves, right? Kind of like soft, punches and things like that. They're pulling a lot of punches. They're not really asking any hard hitting questions. But again, there were a few nuggets here of information that you could pull from this. And I did the liberty of going out and looking up some clips and scouring through it so you don't have to. But if you want to, of course, it's on the Baltimore Ravens YouTube channel. You can go watch the full interview there. So we're going to start off with this one here where Anthony Weaver is talking about how confident he is in uniting this roster and also just speaking on his experience being the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins in the last 2 years. Let's take a listen.
So it's been pretty cool.
So you spent the last 2 seasons in Miami as a defensive coordinator there. What was that experience like for you, and what did you take away from going to a new place, new city, new coaching staff, all that, and to go there and have your opportunity there as a defense coordinator again, and what did you take away from that?
Yeah, it was unique, right? It was unique in the fact that I had to leave here, right, and had a system of defense that I wanted to run. Really wasn't able to bring anybody with me, right? So I had to teach all the coaches and then start to teach the players all the scheme. And what I realized is like, hey, football's football, right? It doesn't matter if you're in Miami, you're in Baltimore. If you're talking about the right things, block destruction, effort, tackling, you're going to play good defense. That first year in particular, I thought we played outstanding. This year, I thought we had a little bit growing pains early. Started to play better throughout the year, but I have the utmost faith in my ability to do the job and to teach people and to be a uniter, and I know we can get that done here.
Mm-hmm. What's the value in getting that experience? Like you go down there and you were running the defense, and like you got to build it. I don't know.
So real quick, talking about uniting the defense, one common theme that I'm taking from, the words of Anthony Weaver, the words of Declan Doyle, who we're going to get to next, and the words of head coach Jesse Minter, is that they really want to be a cohesive unit. They want to be together. And it seemed like last year, if you guys didn't notice, nobody was on the same page, right? And it felt like the Ravens' issues felt like a big game of whack-a-mole, right? It felt like if it wasn't one thing, it was another. If it wasn't the offense who was doing bad, it was the defense who was doing bad, and vice versa. If it was the offense and the defense who were starting to click, the special teams was ass. You know what I mean? Like we just could never, fire on all cylinders at once, and that was kind of the big issue. And I'm loving the fact that they're coaching this philosophy of, hey, togetherness. We're one. We are a unit. That is massively important for a football team or any team in general, to be honest with you. But let's go ahead and get to talking about building that togetherness, right? talks about it over in, let me see, let me fast forward a little bit. Let's go here. And this is him talking about his viral clip where he talks about how mean and how nasty he wants the defense to be. Let's get into that.
Talking about
Viral.
yeah, viral quote talking about how all of our problems can be solved with violence on the football field.
Like, I'm old school. I may sit up here, I'm a nice guy, I smile, I do all those things, but all of our problems that we need to solve can be solved through violence. Yeah, they want to legislate it out of the game, but we play defensive football. And in defensive football, at some point, you draw a line in the sand and you say, I'm going to set the edge. I'm going to stick my helmet under this guy's chin, and I'm going to set the edge. I'm going to violently take the ball away. And that's what we need to do. With a steely-eyed focus, with resolve, with resiliency, and we're going to stop people.
Talk to me about that aspect of you and your defensive identity.
Yeah, I tell guys all the time, like, off the field, you know, be a man, be accountable, be dependable, be somebody that should be trusted, all those things. And on the field, you want to carry that with you, but there also has to be a switch, right? It is football. It is you're a modern day gladiator. So at some point when you cross those white lines, like, something has to switch, and you got to play through the echo of the whistle, and you're trying to move another grown man off a spot, right? And trying to essentially, like, take money out of their pocket. If you're going to do that in this game, the best way to do it is to violently do it. If you want to take the ball away, like, nobody's going to hand you the ball, right? I'm going to have to take that ball away. And that's all I was trying.
I mean, you talk about forcing turnovers. This is the exact type of coach speak that I want to hear. I mean, the Ravens have got to get back to that. I mean, when it comes to forcing turnovers, the Ravens were bottom 5 in the league at doing that. They were so few and far between this season. And don't even get me started on the lack of turnovers in the playoffs in the Lamar regime. Like, I don't think that they have forced a playoff turnover since maybe that Titans game in 2021, 2022. That was probably the last turnover that they forced in the playoffs. It's insane, right? And you can't win these games. You can't break these games open without turning the football over. Look at the Super Bowl. That game, as much as we, in hindsight, look at it as like, oh, Seattle was just clearly the better team. New England was hanging in there until Seattle started to actually force turnovers. So I love the fact that Anthony Weaver is emphasizing that here. Like, hey, look, you got to be violent. You got to go hit dudes in the mouth. Set that edge. Put your helmet underneath his chin strap and let him know it's going to be 60 minutes of hell, which is something that Anthony Weaver also mentioned in this interview as well. Now I want to go to where he talks about working with Jesse Minter, collabing with him. Obviously, he will not be calling the plays here in Baltimore like he was in Miami, but he talks here about what he thinks about working with Jesse Minter. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
We didn't lose the spring and half a training camp, so I expected to go there and do well.
And this time you're going to be collaborating with Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse says he's calling the defensive plays. So you've had a lot of different, combinations, worked with a lot of different guys.
Yeah.
It's still early, but how do you envision you and Jesse, that collaboration working? A guy who obviously you already know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I come into this with no ego.
Boom, right there. Right there. The fact that Anthony Weaver is coming into this situation with zero ego, like zero, resentment of Jesse Minter for, him taking the mantle and calling the plays. That is the type of attitude that you want from an Anthony Weaver. And I get it, guys. We expected nothing less out of Anthony Weaver. He's been a Raven before, in the coaching capacity and even in the player capacity from 02 to 05. So we know he's going to buy into the Raven system, but just verbalizing that and saying like, hey, look, like, I have no qualms or quarrels with Jesse Minter. Like, yeah, he can go ahead and call the plays. It's his show, but I'm going to make sure shit's running right behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, he's the head coach. So he's got, oversight over a bunch of different things. He's not going to be able to just focus on solely defense, right? And my job is basically what he's saying as a defensive coordinator is to back him up, have no ego, even though I'm coming from a job where I was basically doing what Jesse Minter does here. And low-key, in a way, kind of got demoted. It was a lateral move, but low-key a demotion because he's no longer calling the plays, right? The fact that he's coming into it with no ego means the world to me. Let's keep listening.
And I know Jesse's the same way. All of us are just committed to one thing, and that's winning. So whenever you have that and you get a bunch of people pulling the rope in the right direction, like you're gonna find a way. So I'm just excited.
Real quick, guys, be sure to like the video. If you're new here and you're enjoying the content, subscribe.
I'm excited to pick his brain and talk defensive X's and O's and player skill sets and all those things. And I truly believe that the combination of us both, plus the staff that we've assembled, is going to be pretty awesome.
So you're known as just a great guy. A lot of, I talked about walking down the hall and everyone.
All right, one more thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to Anthony Weaver. He was asked about how you get this pass rush, right? And he has something interesting to say here that I think will be indicative of how the Ravens move in free agency in the draft, right? So let me go ahead and pull this up on screen as well. Let me see. Where was it? About right here. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this. How to get this pass rush back to dominance.
Quarterback. But how do you go about trying to manufacture defense holistically that can get after the passer?
Yeah, well, first I believe in the guys we have.
Yeah.
Right. If one-on-one situations are presented, I know we have the guys with a skill set to go out there and win.
Now listen, that might just be all coach speak. I get that, right? You're gonna big up your guys that you currently have on the roster. But if we take stock of who the Ravens currently have rushing the passer, you've got Mike Green, you've got Kyle Van Noy, who I don't know if he's going to be a Raven going into 2026. You've got Adisa Isaac, David Ajabo, a.k.a. not a whole lot of proven talent, right? Those guys have not proven anything, a damn thing. Diddly squat in the NFL, to be honest with you, right? So the fact that he's saying that, maybe that is indicative when he's sitting in that war room with Eric DaCosta and Jesse Minter. Are they all kind of sharing the same sentiment that, like, we like our guys? You guys know the W log, we like our guys. I don't, that kind of does scare me a little bit. And again, it's probably just coach speak, but they better go out and acquire somebody, either on that edge, but more importantly for me, and you guys know how, y'all know how I feel, interior D-line is going to be the catalyst to the pass rush. The most important part, if you can have rushers from the interior pressure the quarterback, everything else will fall into place. But we'll see. Again, it's probably just coach speak.
Two, I think schematically, you're always trying to attack protections and manipulate space, right? And I've always thought that was one of the things that I see and can do well. So I think the combination of those two things, and then some of the ideas that I know that this staff is going to bring, just because of the intellect that we have, we're absolutely going to be to affect the quarterbacks. Because ultimately, like that's what you have to do in this league. They're all too good. They're protected by the rules a little bit, right? So you have to make sure that you can get after the quarterback, whether that's with a sim pressure or pressure, but most of the time with your four-man rush.
Ravens obviously have invested a lot in the back end of that defense. Kyle, one of the best players in the league. Malachi Starks, first-round pick.
Yep.
Just thoughts about how you can maximize some of the pieces in the secondary, because obviously whether you're getting pressure or not, those guys, preventing big plays. Yeah. How you feel like you can really utilize that unit?
Feel really good about it, right? Nate Wiggins,
right?
The Teddy Buchanan kid at will. Trent Simpson, I thought, played well. And the thing about all those guys, particularly when we're talking about those two safeties right now, like they're so smart from a football intelligence standpoint, and you can do so many different jobs with them. And I think we have a lot of those guys, right? We have some guys with tremendous football IQ, which if you're just job changing, right, and changing bodies, sometimes for offense you can present the illusion of complexity, where it's not a lot of work for us, but it looks different to them. And just that little bit of being able to manipulate people and move people around prevents enough angst for offenses. So some low cost.
So basically disguising schemes and things like that and keeping it really simple for the defense, but making it look highly complex for the opposing offense. Love that. Obviously, it's nothing revolutionary. This is something that most defensive coordinators are able to do. But I think his mind, again, his mind is in the right place. And if he's thinking like this on this level, I can only imagine what Jesse Minter, head coach, is thinking right now as well.
Work for us, but because of those guys and how smart they are as football players, we can do some pretty dynamic things.
What about taking the ball away?
Got to do it. It's critical for every football game. So to me, that starts day one, and it's something you're emphasizing every rep, right? If there's a strip opportunity, whether it's from a defensive lineman or a second level player, when you're going in to make a tackle, whether it's a tackling period or not, you should have a ball mentality where I'm gonna strike, rip, rake, do whatever we can at all times to try to take the ball away. And obviously, if it's in the air, with our talent at DB, we expect that ball to belong to us.
Mm-hmm. Last one from.
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds great. Definitely take the ball away from the offense. Just make sure you're tackling in the process as well. Make sure you're wrapping up. Okay. I don't want to see, Roquan Smith trying to take stabs at a ball, but ends up not making a tackle, and a guy ends up scampering for an extra 20, 25 yards down the field. You get what I'm saying? Because we've seen things like that happen too. So love that. Definitely want some takeaways for sure. But I think takeaways should come from forced errors, right? Forced errors from an offense, right? I like what he said before about disguising schemes and making things look complex for an offense. I want things like that, like scheme up turnovers, right? I truly do believe that, forcing turnovers can definitely come from a really good scheme as well, not just physicality, you know, not just physicality, but confusing offenses, confusing quarterbacks, making running backs second guess themselves, right? Those type of things. Those type of things. All right, take a quick break here before we transition over into talking about Declan Doyle, because he is on deck here. Our guy Declan Doyle's on deck. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up on screen here in just a second. If you give me a second. I see some of you guys are having some conversations in the chat about Tyler Linderbaum. I see some chatter about Tyler Linderbaum in the chat and whether or not the Ravens should bring him back. Whether that looks like a franchise tag, whether that looks like, going ahead and giving him a new deal. For me, I say you got to go ahead and lock him up. I personally, I'm old enough to remember the painful times where, Lamar Jackson was dealing with all sorts of snap issues coming from Matt Skura or whoever, was playing Makari, whoever was playing center at the time, right? And that's just not something that you want to get back to if you're the Ravens. Now, I get it. Tyler Linderbaum, I was highly critical of him this past season because he is an undersized center who does struggle one-on-one against bigger nose tackles. He does. When he's going up against a zero tech lineman and he's one-on-one mano-a-mano, he gets slapped out of the way a lot just because he's small, right? For his position. Now, when it comes to the type of scheme that I think that this Ravens offense is going to run from here going forward, especially out of a Dwayne Ledford run game and offensive line, unit, they're going to be running a lot of zone, where basically the entire offensive line is going to be moving in one direction or the other. And when you get Tyler Linderbaum on the move, that's where he excels. So when you talk about continuity with Lamar, that's one huge reason why I think Linderbaum should be retained. But then not only that, it's just like the future of this offense fits Linderbaum's play style. Those two things right there. I mean, if we're not going to re-sign Likely, which it seems like we likely will not, then you got to lock up Lindy. You got to lock him up. I don't think you can lose both. I really don't. I do not think you can lose both of those guys. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our guy Declan Doyle, and you guys see it in the title of this video. This guy is a genius, and he means business. Okay, this guy means business. I don't know. I was thinking when I saw this interview originally, he was going to be a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit like chipper, a little bit more, all those things, right? But in this interview, he was I don't know, maybe he was a little bit nervous, or maybe that's just the type of guy he is, but he doesn't seem like he's playing any games. He's not here to take part. He is here to take over. It's quite clear. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up on screen here now. Before we dive into this, guys, appreciate y'all for coming through. Again, we are live on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. I am your host, Sutton Def. You can follow me on Twitter at SuttonDef, SuttonDef. Please be sure, guys, to like this video and also subscribe to the channel as well. And I know a lot of you guys are watching on X right now. Come over on to YouTube. Come over to YouTube. Do me a big favor. Come over to the good old tube and go ahead and like the video and subscribe. Subscribe. Blah, 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 blah. Tongue twister. Listen, we are close, very close to 6,000 subs, and we'd appreciate it if you who are watching this, if not subscribed yet, could help us get there. Thank you guys so much. Let's go ahead and get into Declan Doyle. This first clip here that I have for you guys is Declan Doyle addressing the age situation, right? Addressing how he feels about people criticizing or just talking a lot about, hey, this is a 29-year-old guy, first time calling plays. How is that going to work? How does that work to the Ravens' benefit? He talks about it here.
So, like, that's a question that's going to come up. What is your view of that? You know, being a 29-year-old play caller, offensive coordinator, younger guy, like, what is your view of that whole conversation?
Yeah, so this is going to be my 11th year coaching. I was a student assistant at Iowa for 3 years. I was in New Orleans for 4. When I got to New Orleans, I was 22 years old. I was in Denver for 2 years as a position coach, and that was the first time I had run my room. I was an offensive coordinator in Chicago, and then to be here. But really, the first time I was ever older than everybody in my room was that second year in Denver. So really, you know, my entire coaching experience has been that way, where I've been kind of the same age as the players. What I know about, through my experience, knowledge is power. And so if you can help a player, they really don't care where you come from. They don't care how old you are. If you can help them advance their career, if you can help them advance our team and our goals, they're willing to listen, and they're wide open to that. I view it as an advantage because it allows me to, you know, Jesse talks about being a connector and being able to build relationships. I've found that it's allowed me, because I've grown up in the same world as some of these guys, to be able to connect with them maybe a little bit easier than it might be for somebody who's 20 years older than a player. And so I've never viewed it.
Boom. And this is what myself, Alex, and I know a lot of other Ravens content creators were saying when the Ravens first hired Declan Doyle. I was critical of it before I learned more about him. But like Declan Doyle just mentioned there, I mean, I think there is value in being able to relate to these 20-something-year-olds on the roster. It just is. You know, like, we grew up in the same era. We can, you know, relate to some of the same topics, and we kind of grew up around the same, with the same music coming out around the same time, movies and whatnot, cultural references, all that sort of stuff really matters when it comes to building relationships, right? When you have a coordinator or a boss, a supervisor even, who is 2-3 generations ahead of you, you're not going to be able to relate to anything. It's literally all just like, I guess you could just say the relationship is just limited. It's limited. Whereas with Declan Doyle and Lamar Jackson, they're going to be able to relate to a lot of stuff just because they're literally the exact same age. I love that. Then he mentioned how, you know, these players, they don't give a damn, frankly, how old you are. If you have the knowledge, right, they're going to respond to that, because at the end of the day, they want to learn, because the more they learn, the better chance it gives them to win, you know, and he understands that philosophically, and I love it. I love it. So let's keep on listening.
As a setback. I think that experience is what counts, and certainly as an offensive guy, you know, the amount of game plans you've sat in, the amount of defenses you've seen, the amount of planning that's been done, you know, the year that I was born really doesn't have any effect on that. And so it's actually been something that I've found as a benefit to me.
That's awesome.
Love that. Love that. Kwame says in the chat, critical ain't the word, Sutton, so he's not a kid anymore. Hey, listen, man, still a kid. Still a kid. But from what I've learned about him in the past couple of weeks, I've gotten a lot of information that leads me to believe that this is the right guy for the job, just because of how sharp he is. Again, word of the day, Kwame, is perspicacity. That's the word of the day. Look it up if you don't know it. But this kid has it. He's sharp as a tack. He's very, very mindful, very, very knowledgeable. You're going to see that throughout the rest of these clips. And I do reserve the right, as you should want me to, as a content creator who you watch, right? I do reserve the right to, when I'm presenting new information, to change my opinions. I will be insufferable. I would be completely insufferable if I just died on every hill that I stood on. I don't know. If I get new information, I can come down from this hill and I can crawl up another one. All right. That's just how this goes. That's how it goes. Appreciate you, Kwame, though.
You mentioned the word connected, together. Like, that's something that we heard many times during Jesse's introductory press conference. I'm guessing in this process, as you went through the interview and even in the conversations you've had since joining the staff, that those have been things that have brought up. And it doesn't seem like it's just lip service. Like, it's not just a cliche that someone throws out. It's a real thing, and trying to build that as a coaching staff, as a team, holistically. What is... Take me into whatever conversations or what's going on behind the scenes as you try to build that togetherness.
Yeah, I think it starts with relationships, and relationships are essentially, trust is built off communication and accountability to that communication. So an open line of communication, whether that's to our fellow coaches or the players. Accountability is, us saying something and then doing what we say. And that's how we're going to build trust, up and down the chain of command throughout the organization. It's a huge piece of, what we...
Building trust through communication. Again, may seem very surface level, may not really move you, but these are the philosophies that I think we're missing with John Harbaugh. Right. And that's one of the reasons why I like what this kid, Kwame, is saying. I do. And like I've mentioned, I don't know if you've seen the episodes in the past weeks, but the checks and balances that we also have on this coaching staff. Yeah, you have a 29-year-old offensive coordinator, but you also have a literal Joe Lombardi, senior offensive assistant, to kind of help him out and guide him through this process of being a first-time play caller. My guy Brad from the Charm City Sideline podcast always puts it perfectly and in perspective for me when he says, everybody who is a master or a genius at something, they had to do it for the first time at some point. Whether that be Shanahan, whether that be McVay, whether that be Ben Johnson, whether that be whoever your favorite coach is, they all had to do something for the first time. And my whole pushback when the Ravens hired Declan Doyle was like, hey, look, we're in a Super Bowl window right now. We're trying to win right now. So why not go out and get a proven guy? And in some ways, I still do feel that way, And that's why I was largely on board with getting an offensive-minded head coach. Hey, maybe we should go get a Clint Kubiak, right? But as we saw this past season, defense is still winning championships, right? So I have all the confidence, again, with the defensive mindset that this team is going to have, the knowledge. There has not been any sort of brain drain on defense or offense in this new change of coaching staff. There hasn't been a brain drain, and that's what really, really gives me the confidence. You got brainiacs like this kid, brainiacs like Jesse Minter on defense, and then the checks and balances of guys who have been there and done that. Lombardi, Weaver. Everything coming together is why I like this hire a lot more than I did originally. Let's continue listening, though. He's talking about the togetherness here, though. Same thing that Anthony Weaver kind of talked about.
What we envision here, we want a connected team, a team that's going to play together, because teams that are close, they tend to perform better, down the stretch. Guys that are playing for each other, that their why is included in, their teammates in the locker room, the coaches they're playing for, and they're motivated in that way. And so it starts with language and how we talk. It starts with, the communication and opening that dialogue. And then, really that trust is going to be earned through time. It's not like I can call up Lamar and say, hey, I need you to trust me. We'll earn that over time. And it's really going to be a two-way street. He's got to earn my trust. I have to earn his trust. And that goes for every player that we have.
That's real.
And so it's going to be a huge piece of what we're going to build here. The relationships are always going to be, the engine that drives success in the NFL. It just always will be that way. And I'm certainly excited to start and work through and build those things with our team and our players.
Yeah, trust me, Declan. For someone my age, being 29 doesn't seem like a problem at all. So, yeah, I think you'll be just fine.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. This dude is all business. This dude is 100,000% just straight up business. You feel me? He don't even want to laugh and joke around with these dudes. We'll see how he acts tomorrow at the press conference in front of the entire Baltimore media. That'll really tell us who this kid is.
A little bit about the offense. You touched a little bit about you're not going to be vague about what the players expect or what you expect from the players. What does a Declan Doyle offense look like? It's definitely, obviously you want to score a touchdown every time you get it, but what are the characteristics that you want to see from the offense?
Yeah, I think the non-negotiables are that, one, we're physical, and that starts up front, but that also is how we are outside. Our little guys have to be able to beat up their little guys and go after them, and that's really how you measure the physicality of an offense. Are your receivers willing to go in there and block and be physical and set up some of those other things where you can create?
What he just said right there tells you the Ravens ain't going back and doubling back and getting no Hollywood Brown. So if you thought that was on the table, go and take it off now.
Create explosive plays on the back end. The second thing I talked about was detail, but really that is on every given play, giving our players exactly like where their eyes need to start, what the expectation is of giving them a toolbox of how to problem solve. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to take 0 snaps next year. I'm not going to walk onto the field one time. They're the ones who have to solve problems. And so we need to be detailed in our teaching as far as what we're going to ask them within the concept, the specifics of how the spacing of the field works in the passing game, the specifics of how their jobs relate to each other in the run game, and then the same thing in protection, how we make sure that the quarterback can play from a clean pocket. Okay. And then the last thing is that we're going to hunt explosive plays. We're hunting plays that, 12+ yard gain.
Hunting those explosive plays. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. And guess what? Guess who else likes to hear that? Guess who loves explosive plays? This guy. 8. Mar loves himself an explosive play. And Declan Doyle in this next part actually talks about what makes Lamar Jackson so dangerous and why you might see a lot more explosive plays. Keep listening. Be sure to like the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new. Appreciate y'all. Let's keep it rolling.
Gains in the run game, 16+ yard gains in the passing game. And everything we do is going to be built that way, where we're trying to create explosive plays. We're trying to obviously score as many points as we possibly can. And so physical detail and explosive is what we expect to see.
You mentioned Lamar, obviously a gifted quarterback. You would just work with another gifted quarterback, Caleb Williams. What are some of the things that you think having Lamar as the quarterback of this offense will allow you to do that maybe if you had another quarterback you would not be able to do it?
Yeah, I think he's certainly talented in a number of ways. When you watch the tape, there's not really any throws that he can't make. He's very arm talented. I think there's a number of things that you watch that I think that he can get even better. I think there's even a higher ceiling to his game. You're looking at a guy who's been the MVP twice, and yet I still think that just like all of our guys, but I think he still has room to grow as well. And so, he's a very exciting player. Obviously, you see what he can do off schedule. He can throw off platform. What he can do with his legs is really special and as a ball carrier. But I think that any player, it takes, really being able to work with them hands-on, be able to watch him, figure out what he does best, and then be able to shape and build this offense around what those things are.
The off-schedule piece, I'm curious your perspective on that, because on one hand, you build the offense, you want it to run a certain way and very detailed, as you just talked about. Mm-hmm. But then someone like, we pull up Lamar's highlights, on our website, the highlight reel, some of the best plays that he's made are the off-schedule plays. Yeah.
Real quick, we do have a super chat donation. This one's coming from the Great 174. Listen, man, thank you for making it rain. Appreciate you, partner. Appreciate that. What does the Great One say? Dropping the 10 piece in the chat. Great One says, you trust Minter and Weaver on defense, but when they say we have the players to be successful and call it coach talk, just asking. We know Orr was awful. Minter legit turned Oweh around in like 7 games. This is true. Which, gives me even more the reason to believe that. He can get something out of Atavius Robinson. Jesse Minter can. And the combination of him and Anthony Weaver. They can get something out of a Mike Green. Adisa Isaac, we don't know if he's going to be ready to go next year. Ojabo, I don't, he can go, honestly. Calvin Noy can go. And I do fully expect them to bring in a guy, whether it be through draft, whether it be through free agency. Personally, I would prefer they draft an edge rusher and they go out and they buy an interior D lineman, right? Because your edge rushers are going to be able to work off of the production of your interior D lineman. As I always say, I've been saying this. I posted a video last night. Go get John Franklin Myers in free agency, right? Give him 12 mil a year, 11 mil, something like that after you get the Lamar extension done. And that'll help out massively. Mike Green, Tavius, whoever else you want to draft at outside linebacker. Yeah, I've got faith. I've got faith in Minter and Weaver in being able to turn those guys around, and actually bring them to being, some of the more premier pass rushers in this league. I do. Minter legit, yeah, like you said, he turned around Oweh in 7 games. He had more sacks. He started off the season with the Ravens, first 6 games, 0 sacks. Then on a short season with LA, gets 10 plus. And forces 2 fumbles in a playoff game, of all things. Oweh hadn't forced a fumble, to my knowledge, since the Chiefs game on Sunday Night Football back in or was that Monday Night Football back in 2022, his rookie year, or 21, one of the two, right? So, that gives me all the confidence in the world that Minter and Weaver together, the combo of those two guys, can bring the best out of what we do have. But still, doesn't mean you rest on your laurels and you don't go out and get new blood to go ahead and hunt on that defense. But thank you so much for your Super Chat donation. Great ones. Appreciate that. Making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. We got another one. This one's coming from Not a Chance You Read This. Hey, listen, appreciate you, partner. Making it rain here on this episode. Says, Sutton, has your opinion on Doyle hire changed now? Yeah, Kwame was just giving me shit for that in the chat about 10 minutes ago. How, I kind of flip-flopped there, right? But the more that I learn about Declan Doyle and the more that I learned about this Ravens coaching staff as it filled out, the more I'm loving the pick, right? If we were just throwing Declan Doyle to the Wolves, and I always use the analogy, right? Giving this 29-year-old kid who relative, in NFL years, like a 17-year-old kid, the keys to our Lambo, aka Lamar Jackson-led offense, and just letting him run wild with it and doing whatever he wants. First-time play caller, aka first time on the road, with that level of talent or with that type of engine, may be a little bit dangerous, right? But bringing in a Joe Lombardi provides checks and balances there. And Jesse Minter, oh, by the way, he is not going to just be solely focusing on the defense, right? I think that the checks and balances of a Jesse Minter being a defensive wizard, right? A young defensive mind, he's going to be able to challenge in real time Declan Doyle. Oh, Declan, this is your game plan for this week against the Steelers. All right, cool. Here's how I would shut that shit down. Tell me how I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. Clint Kubiak talked about how Mike McDonald did that all the time. Clint would come up with an offensive game plan, and Mike McDonald would look him in the face and say, here's how I would stop that. How would you combat it? And Minter is the same type of guy. From everything that we've learned from John Harbaugh has said that. His own dad, Rick Minter, has said that as well. There's going to be challenges for Declan Doyle. And I think those challenges will only make him stronger. You know what I mean? And he's got all of the ingredients in the kitchen. Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs of all time. If that offensive line can get up to snuff, which I truly believe they will, through free agency draft and then new coaching regime, and honestly, is low-key addition by subtraction. No more Daniel Faalele. They might give Voorhees another shot. But hey, listen, Emory Jones is right there. If you ain't doing your job, pull you, put in Emory. All those things give me confidence in Declan Doyle. They do. So yes, my opinion has changed. It has changed. And I reserve the right to do that. You know what I'm saying? Who would I be if I just died on the hill of Declan Doyle as ass? Nobody would want to listen to me. If we were like 7 weeks into, the season next year and the Ravens were averaging 32 points a game or something crazy like that. And I was just like, I still don't like this Declan Doyle kid. I'm going to stick by my take from when we hired him. You know what I mean? Nobody would want to listen to me. And I'd feel like an asshole. And I'd feel like that would be a contrived opinion at that point. And I'd be being disingenuous with you guys. And I never want to do that. That's not what I'm about. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a rage baiter, as a lot of people called me last week for one of my Lamar Jackson takes. I'm not that type of guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you what I think in real time. And those things will change. If you watch enough of me, those things will change. And I'll explain to you why. And I appreciate you asking me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Not a chance you read this. I definitely read that one. And I just love this guy's name. Not a chance you read this. Haloti Nada, Ed Reed. I mean, whenever I see him in chats, whether it be in here or anywhere else in the Raven space, always love seeing you, brother. Appreciate you for coming through. Appreciate you for donating and making it rain here on the Purple Rain podcast. Quiet Storm Sports, that is. All right. Glaucoma says he got the Lamborghini with all the safety features, though. See, there we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Black Daniel says opinions have the ability to be changed. What a concept. I know, right? Exactly. Let's continue, though. Appreciate the super chat donation.
And so how do you balance wanting to run this kind of perfect offense while also keeping the door open for some of the things that he does best?
Yeah, I think there's the benefit of having a quarterback like that is the defense has to defend 2 plays on every play. And so there's the
boom. This is what I've been saying. I've been saying this about Lamar Jackson for honestly a couple of years now. My favorite thing about Lamar Jackson is that he creates brand new plays within the play. When the original play breaks down and he scrambles outside of the pocket and buys an extra 4 or 5 seconds of time with his legs, it's a whole new play, and defenses just have to scramble. It automatically becomes a scramble drill. You can't game plan for that. You cannot game plan for a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, because even when your defense gets it right, Lamar Jackson can still make you wrong. And that's exactly what Declan Doyle is saying here. And I love the fact that he knows that, right?
Play that is called. There's the choreographed play that we come up with that we're trying to be the best in the world at getting number 1 open in the progression. And so that play is called. There's a certain, rhythm and a timing to that play. It's a set, choreographed routes, our protection, all those things. And yet when you have a quarterback that can create, if that play, it really allows him to be an eraser. And so if we make a game planning mistake, if they play a coverage that we're not expecting, if a receiver doesn't run the route quite the right way and he works through his progression, now the defense has to defend a second play. And so obviously we have to have a contingency plan as far as the spacing of our routes and how we fit into that. But it allows the quarterback to be able to create and erase and create big plays when a defense has to defend that as he, either flushes or starts to press the line of scrimmage.
Something you've said a couple of times is explosive plays, and mentioned that. Like I remember the quote last year that Ben Johnson had when he was asked about the tush push, but he's like, I don't like the tush push because I've never seen a tush push become an explosive play. I want explosive plays, right? And so I'm just curious how you go about, I think everybody would probably say that, but it seems in here, like in talking with you, that explosive plays is part of your offensive identity and what you want. And so how do you go about achieving that and making that kind of a staple of your offense?
Yeah, I think it starts with game planning and understanding that you're going to have somewhere between 65 and 70 bullets a game to be able to fire. And so you want to make sure as you're planning those things against the defense, like there are always plays where you look at and you're saying, hey, this is a breather play. We might expect to gain 4 yards on this, or we might expect to gain less. We know it's not going to be a negative play, but we're not expecting this to go for a big play. And understanding that we have 65, bullets to shoot, we have to shoot live rounds. Like we don't shoot blanks, everything.
Woo, we don't shoot blanks. Bro. Talk heavy, Declan. We don't shoot blanks. We don't shoot blanks. Talk to him. Talk to him. Clip come fully loaded. I don't know what you heard. Talk to him, Declan.
Thing we do is pointed, it's calculated, and it is designed to bend and stress the rules of the defense. And so it's really a relentless game plan process to make sure what we're putting on the sheet, what we're calling, what we're asking our players to do. One, it expresses, their ability. Zay Flowers is a really talented player. There's a lot of things that he can do. We need to ask him to do those things within the plan. And then it is, making sure that what we're going to ask from a structural standpoint fits, trying to create those explosive plays against a defense.
Have you decided if you're going to call plays from the sidelines or the booth?
I have.
See, so y'all already know. This is my question right here. This is what I've been wanting to know ever since the Ravens hired Declan Doyle. Declan, are you going to call plays on the field or are you going to call plays from the booth all the way up in the sky? Right? Because y'all know what I want. I want him to be right there on that field next to Lamar Jackson, looking through that iPad. Him, Lamar, Israel Wolfork, the quarterback's coach now. I want them all collaborating in real time. Joe Lombardi, your old ass, love you. You're a Raven now, but your old ass can sit up there in the box. And you can get the all 22 and tell us what you see from up there. But Declan Doyle, you're too young to be up there, bro. Be on the field with these guys in the moment. See how the game is living and breathing. Let's see how he answers this question, though.
Haven't yet. I'd like to do both. I kind of talked to Lamar about the same thing. I was just like, what would you rather have? He said he'd never had a coach call it from the field. I'd like to kind of experience both and work through it with the staff because there's benefits and negatives to both. Obviously being on the field, you love being able to be around the players and you get a good feel for it. And, I've been in the booth last year in Chicago. I do think there's merit to being up there, and it's just a very calm decision-making environment. And so we'll kind of try both.
Which is true. That's true. Being in the booth, very calm up there. Bullets aren't whizzing past your head because there's not players walking up and down the sidelines, who are cussing and loud and frustrated or whatever. I get that. But you got to ride in the battle with your soldiers. And like he said, Lamar Jackson told him he's never had an offensive coordinator who calls plays from the field. Well, Lamar Jackson has also never hoisted a Lombardi. He's never had a Super Bowl, So what I always like to say, nothing changes if nothing changes. So I would prefer Declan Doyle to be on the field. But he's saying here he's going to experiment with both. And I don't know if that's going to come in, preseason or whatever that may look like. But I think it would be important for Declan Doyle to be on the sideline with his soldiers while they're in battle. I just think that.
And figure out, what's more comfortable for myself and what's going to benefit us more as an offense.
I know some trick plays were a part of the Bears offense or part of it, but it seems like you guys got value out of a lot of them. I'm just curious, is that something that you feel will carry over here and kind of the nuances of when to call them, that kind of rhythm of, okay, is this a good time? Is it going to work? Just curious about it because you guys were so successful at that.
Yeah, I think that a calling card of the offense is the chase of creativity, the chase of, being able to give our players advantageous, looks and calls that may be able to take advantage of defenses. And so in a lot of cases, those plays, while they look cool and obviously they're very different, those are very detailed out. We spend a lot of time working through the details of those. It's not like we just roll those out and on Sunday we call it and expect it to work. We feel really good about those plays called when we call them. And it's certainly going to be the same way here. We're going to be hunting, ways to stress the defense. And a lot of times that is, it can come in what would be a little more exotic or an exotic form of offense. And I absolutely see that as something that we need to take advantage of.
So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. A lot of the other stuff that he said was mainly political stuff, and we'll see more tomorrow. We'll learn a lot more tomorrow when Declan Doyle faces the actual Baltimore media, not people who actually work underneath the Ravens directly. We'll learn a lot more tomorrow. And, of course, we will be covering it here on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. So be sure, if you want to tune into our thoughts about that, me and Alex will actually be live tomorrow, because Alex will not be able to go live on Thursday. So what that means, we're going to be doing PRP officially tomorrow, which is going to be great because we're going to have a lot to talk about. Declan Doyle and Anthony Weaver by then will have faced, again, like I said, the Baltimore media, and we will be reviewing that because I'm sure we'll learn a lot more. But what we learned here tonight, main takeaways for me. Anthony Weaver is the perfect fit. He fits like a glove for this defense, right? Is a guy who has experience. He's called plays for the Miami Dolphins the past 2 seasons, right? So he's coming here to Baltimore in a simplified role, which I think will make it a lot easier for him to do his job and to do his job very, very well. He's going to motivate those guys. He's going to make sure that they are ready to run through a wall on Sundays. And not just that. I don't want to make it out to seem like Anthony Weaver is just a rah-rah guy, because he's not. He also has a really, really good defensive mind, right? And that comes from, playing experience, and then also just, again, like I said, coaching experience as well. So pairing him up with a young mind, a young whiz kid, like Rick Minter says, and Jesse Minter, then again, sky's the limit for this defense. As we know, defense still, to this day, wins championships. And we just learned that in the past Super Bowl. When it comes to Declan, right? When it comes to Declan Doyle, another whiz kid who has all of these ideas and these philosophies that we largely just didn't hear coming from John Harbaugh's regime. I mean, Todd Monken, hats off to him. He did his thing, right? But it did feel like at times his offense was able to be thwarted by opposing defenses, almost like he had been low-key figured out in some ways, right? It started to seem like some of the issues and the ailments from the Greg Roman era of that offense kind of started to trickle in and seep into the Todd Monken offense after him being OC for 2 years in Baltimore. But with Declan, you get fresh ideas that other defensive coordinators, especially, with Declan Doyle, his first time calling plays, other DCs and other teams around the league have not seen before yet. So they're not going to know what to game plan for, right? This is going to be one of those years where teams have to react to what the Ravens are doing in real time. They're not going to be able to game plan as easy. They're just not. And that's what I love the most about bringing in the Declan Doyle. Again, on top of that, the fact that we do have guys who are going to make sure that it is a smooth and easy transition for this young 29-year-old guy to start calling plays for the first time, a.k.a., again, Joe Lombardi. So overall, I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't say enough about it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Chef Spicy Rice says, will you guys co-stream, me and Alex? Yeah, we're going to be on together tomorrow, if that's what you're talking about. We're going to be on together tomorrow. Before I get out of here, guys, don't forget to like the video. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, as we still have about 90 people watching. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode of Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. I love you guys. Appreciate y'all as well. And we will be back. We will be back tomorrow in full effect with a lot of different content. So make sure you stay locked in by subbing to the channel. We'd appreciate that. Listen, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Give me some dinner, things like that. Get ready for bed because we got a long day of news tomorrow. Long day of news tomorrow. Like we always say, stay positive, test negative, and never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. My name is Sudden Death. This is Quiet Storm Sports. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.